Listen to me. This might be the best Bluetooth earbud under $150. If that's your budget and if this is not at the top of your list, you need to watch this video because I'm going to show you exactly how OnePlus actually made meaningful, measurable, audible changes that are just improvements, right? And the fact is, they didn't even need to go this hard because the predecessor, the OnePlus Buds Pro 2, was awesome. Great comfort, great build quality, and pretty darn good sound. Not perfect, but pretty darn good, and did things that no other earbud could with respect to bass and stuff. That's awesome. ANC was weak. Honestly, if they just bumped the ANC up a bit and just tweaked, fine-tuned the sound signature, I'd have been over the moon. I'd have been recommending this just like that. Instead, they made this. So they've changed from the pillowcase design to an open top design, but unlike certain brands that just copy, they've got this nice oval finish, something a bit distinctive. They've also got this faux leather finish, although it's all just hard plastic, still looks nice, looks a bit distinctive. You've got this metal band encircling the whole case, and that makes it look rather thick, but if you actually compare it with the older generation, they're about the same thickness. So what does that mean? It means you've got the same pocketability and comfort in pocket, but now the ability to one-hand it. A change in form, meaningfully increasing function without compromising comfort. That's pretty good. It's a good start. And then come the earbuds. Now, the earbuds are a bit shiny, to be fair. If you want something a little more subtle, you might want to go for the black version, but they look great, have the same form factor as last time with a couple of changes. One of the smaller ones is that they've got left and right etched into the plastic now, and it looks really cool. It's really big. There's no confusion which one's for which ear. It's great. But then you have the control scheme. Now, the previous two generations, the Buds Pro 2 and the Buds 3, the non-Pro version, had squeeze controls and touch controls. Advantage of squeeze controls: no mistouches when you're wearing a wet hoodie, etc. Or when you're wiping the side of your face at the end of a workout, no mistouches. But you kind of had to guess where to squeeze as well. Touch controls, great because you get that swipe up and down for volume, but then you've got the mistouch problem. So what do? They took both of them and put them together. This works on both squeeze and touch controls. So you've got squeeze controls for most or all of your functions except for volume, which is still a swipe up and down, which means a mistouch will not affect anything you're playing except for the volume level just a little bit. And even then, to reduce the chances of that, instead of putting the serrated edge at the back or the top of the stem like they've done previously, they put it on the inside front edge, thereby minimizing the chance of a mistouch further still. A meaningful increase in functionality with a change in form. I mean, how many brands do you know that are actually thinking about this and actually doing things? I get that it's very similar to the AirPods Pro. I get that. But unlike, say, Samsung's implementation, this one actually makes sense. This one takes it one step further. They have actually tried to give you a better experience, and I, for one, appreciate that. Now, honestly, what I want to do is go ahead and jump straight into the sound quality because that's what it's all about, but we should probably talk about features. So let's talk about it, the feature set, and while we're doing that, we may as well check the microphones. There's a lot of traffic behind me. You should be able to hear my voice and figure out on your own whether this is worth it or not. Now, the thing is, features-wise, it's not got that many and it doesn't need that many. It's got noise cancelling, it's got transparency, we're going to talk about that in the next section, but also it's got multi-point. 2 devices, any ecosystem, and it works. Good for you, OnePlus. Good for you. It also has LHDC and AAC support. What it does not have is support for LDAC or any of the other codecs, but that's okay. Most Android phones, no, many Android phones now have LHDC support, so that's a good thing. You can always fall back on AAC, not ideal, but that's the way they went with it. There's also a low lag mode, a game mode as well, that claims to bring the lag down to almost 94 milliseconds or down to a maximum of 94 milliseconds, but it only works with OnePlus phones of a certain kind, and therefore it's just not available to most of us. But I guess they had to get you in the ecosystem somehow. Now, battery life is one place I think they fall short, because you get about 4.5 to 5 hours with LHDC and AAC on with a volume of about 60%. It gets pretty loud. You don't really need to go louder than that, but it's up to you. Point is, it's not great. It's very similar to the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro 3, which is, like I said, not great. Unlike the Samsung though, 10 minutes of charge in the case will get you 40% or nearly 40% of battery. So you get almost half your battery life back in 10 minutes of charging. Samsung, are you listening? Are you taking note? I hope you are, because this year you messed up. And did I mention you get wireless charging? Sub $150, wireless charging and fast charging. So that kind of makes up for that battery life not being there, kind of. But that's about it for the features. There's not that much else. And honestly, I'm fine with that. IP ratings and all you can go find out on the website. But more importantly, tell me what you thought of the microphone quality. Are you able to cancel out? Are you able to hear too much background noise? Is my voice coming through clearly? Is it crackly? Are they artifacting? Tell me in the comments below. Gotta go. But more importantly, what has the microphone quality been like? Have you been able to hear the background too much? Is it cancelled out well? Is my voice coming through clearly? Because sound is really what it's all about. And speaking of sound, but that mic quality though, I have to admit, number one, this was a recording of a video using the Bluetooth microphone on the Oneplus Buds 3. When you're on a phone call, oftentimes phones will do additional processing. I haven't tested that, but just out of the buds itself, it seems like there's no processing, there's no noise cancelling. All the background noise comes straight in along with your voice, which is great because your voice sounds very clear, but if you're in a noisy environment, it's not so great. Speaking of suppressing the background sound, there are marketing claims. Up to 50 decibels of noise cancelling. BS. That's all marketing BS. Please don't fall for that ever. Okay, let me show you, okay? I'm gonna put a graph and I'm gonna explain why this is marketing BS, but why the Buds Pro 3 still isn't that bad. So what you'll see is a reference line. That is the noise signal. Then you see another line. That's the noise reduced signal recorded from the Oneplus Buds Pro 3. This line, the lower it is, the better. At no point along the line does it lower from the reference line by 50 decibels. Now, this is probably still true under certain test conditions, under certain specific frequency ranges, etc. But in the real world, this is not 50 decibels of noise cancelling by any stretch of imagination. Because if it was, it would blow the socks off of Bose and Sony and maybe JBL. Subscribe if you want to see the Tor Pro 3 whenever that comes out. But here's the Sony XM4 earbuds noise cancelling profile. Do you see how far below the Oneplus Buds 3 it is? That 50 decibel reduction is an absolute marketing BS claim. But let's compare it with its predecessor, the Oneplus Buds Pro 2. And here, again, remember, lower is better. And you can see that for multiple frequency ranges, it is consistently lower than the Oneplus Buds Pro 2, meaning it consistently cancels out more noise than its predecessor. That is not something you can say of a lot of brands these days. A meaningful improvement in ANC. That's awesome. About as awesome as our membership program. If you become a YouTube member or a paying Patreon member, you get giveaways and some bonus content like some behind the scenes for this video. So become a member and support the channel. Oh, and giveaways will happen in a couple of months. All right. Back to the video. That is not something you can say of a lot of brands these days. They've made an actual improvement, and subjectively, I could hear it. When I was out and about, I put them on, I was like, oh, this sounds actually quieter than the previous one. Have they improved it? Yes, they have. Gotta love that. Got to love that. Now, there are multiple modes to noise cancelling. So what I've showed you is the highest mode, the greatest amount of noise cancelling it has to offer. Lower modes offer you a more even noise cancelling profile, but they just cancel out less. So you can choose depending on how much pressure you feel in your ear. I know some people are very sensitive to this. The option is there. Then there's transparency mode. Now, again, reference line, transparency line. So in this mode, the reproduced signal should be the same as the initial signal because what is outside must be reproduced one-to-one to your ear. That's transparency. And you can see for a large part of the frequency range, it does that. And it sounds really, really natural too. However, if you're in an environment with a lot of high frequency noise, that gets subdued quite a bit. So the world in those circumstances does sound muffled. So if the AirPods Pro were S tier, right? And let's say the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra were S tier because both of them have amazing transparency mode. And then the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro 3 would probably be in an A tier, maybe a A-. This would be a healthy B+. Only because of that high frequency range. But in most situations, subjectively, I can tell you it sounds pretty natural. Which brings us to sound quality. The Buds Pro 2 were amazing because they did bass like no one else did. Mid-bass punch was tight, it was punchy, it was really, really good. There's nothing else quite like it. So the Buds Pro 3 have a similar amount of mid-bass punch but a little less than the previous one, but they have more sub-bass extension. That deep rumbly bass, that's a little more over here. Which one you prefer is up to you. You do have EQ to help you with that, but overall, bass is still one of the fortes of OnePlus, and I don't know very many other earbuds that actually match it. Now for the rest of it though, the mids have been noticeably cleaned up compared to the previous generation. They're clearer, they're cleaner, vocals come out nicely. It's actually fantastic. Right up to the point where you get to the highs. This was a problem last time around as well. OnePlus makes things too sharp, just like all those other brands, and they don't need to. They've got such a good product. Why do they resort to these cheap tactics? I do not understand. If you have an external EQ and if you drop 5 and 12 kilohertz, your life will just get better. Otherwise, it just gets fatiguing. However, if you have a bit of hearing loss in the highs, this is great. Because all said and done, it is a fun sounding IEM, but one that sounds pretty darn clean as well. Not something you get to say often at this price point and lower. Now, there are some EQ options available, and honestly, I would just go with the default balanced. If you want, you can use the Dynaudio setting. It reduces the highs, so it actually makes it much more palatable, but then it increases the bass a lot, so it becomes a little more muddy and veiled. If you like that sort of super warm signature, then the Dynaudio signature is fine. What I would do is go with balanced, maybe click on bass wave and reduce bass. It only reduces the sub bass. Reduce that by 2 or 3 notches if you feel like it's getting overbearing. But more importantly, I would just use an external EQ software and drop that treble. Drop 5 kilohertz, drop 12 kilohertz by a good, I don't know, 3 dB or so at 5 kilohertz and about 6-7 decibels at 12 kilohertz. It's really, really sharp. And leave everything else as is and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. There's a custom EQ option. The problem is the bands they give you aren't quite enough to fix the exact issues of this earbud. So to wrap it up, what do we have here? Number one is they have meaningfully changed the form factor, both of the case, not so much the earbuds, but at least the control scheme of the earbuds to give you greater functionality without reducing comfort. They have meaningfully improved ANC such that you can actually hear the difference, and I've measured and showed you the difference too. Sound quality also is similarly improved. It's much better sculpted despite my complaining. It is better. The downside, unfortunately, is mic quality. Well, mic quality is good, but it does not cancel out background noise, which is a big deal. Battery life is not great, but you do get fast charging and wireless charging, and multi-point that doesn't lock you into an ecosystem. And all of that for under $150. I could recommend this quite easily, and I know you'd probably come back to me tomorrow and say, hey, that was great. It feels great. It's well built. It's comfortable. It's easy to use. It's got decent ANC and surprisingly fun sound quality. That's the takeaway from this. Having said that, what if you preferred open earbuds, the kind that don't go into your ear? Well, I've got something coming up, something a bit special. So subscribe, obviously, and stay tuned. And I'll see you in the next video. Stay happy, stay peaceful, stay colorful. Namaste.